Hello everyone, welcome back to my updated Round 0 AFL Fantasy team. Hopefully you've been doing well. Thank you to everybody who liked, commented and subscribed from the last video. The engagement was absolutely amazing. But since the last couple community series games, my team has made a few little changes. So we're going to go through what that looks like so far heading into round 0, which at time of recording is pretty much 48 hours away from the scheduled start. Obviously, there's some news coming out of Brisbane that the Brisbane Lions Geelong game is going to be postponed until round 3. So they're no longer going to be in the bye schedule for the early part of the season. So we don't know just yet what's going on with Essendon and Gold Coast, whether they're going to push that game back or not. But what I thought I'd do, I've got my team that I went through in the video on the screen next to me. I'm going to highlight some of the changes and sort of talk about why the players that have come in, what the difference has become, and where the money's moved around. So if we look at the defense, Sheasel locked and loaded in our team at D1 still. He was in my draft as of Sunday morning. Again, dominated on Saturday against West Coast, no need. My D2 has changed. Jaden Short has come up from D3 to D2, and Matt Roberts has come up, as has Perryman. They've all moved up a slot. So what you might notice is James Leake has come off my bench into D6. That is to create some money in other areas of my team. So Jaden Short comes into D2, Matt Roberts into D3, Perryman into D4. Not going to go into heaps of depth with them, but a Joel Freya has come in at D5. These last sort of couple defensive spots have changed a little bit for me. If we look at a Freya, he goes north into Collingwood, into Carlton, then Fremantle, Brisbane are going to be some tougher games, then into St Kilda, GWS, Port and Gold Coast. Again, we saw Freya in the last practice game look really, really good against Hawthorn in that main distributor role, and even with Bailey Dale around, I think Freya could easily average 80 to 90. And he's priced at 61. So early value, good enough fixtures to start the season off with. And I don't like many of the other options. I don't like a Sam De Koning. I'm not a huge fan. I want to see Jackson Pryor play before I go and put him into this defence. So I've just gone with sort of 5, relatively priced defenders, and then the rotation of Leake and probably a Zach Reed. So that's all that changed in my defence. I do like Logan Evans. I like the Port defenders, but I just don't think we know who the main guy is going to be just yet. Farrell, Evans, Sin, Bergman, Burton. There's just so many mouths to feed in Port where I think everyone's kind of capable. And someone that we are going to talk about in a minute has reappeared in my team who may get some ball movement out of halfback. So I think with Port, they're very good draft options if they fall to you. Almost take the best value halfback in draft from a Port Adelaide perspective. But that is my defence. So let's move it on into my midfield, which you might be saying, Paul, you took a lot of money out of your defence by getting rid of an Evans and bringing in James Leake. This is where that money has gone. So my midfield has changed quite a lot. So my previous midfield was Brayshaw, Liberatore, Power, Oliver, Hollands, Peatling, Ashcroft and Langford. They did have Finn O'Sullivan on the bench though as well. But since the practice games, we've gone and brought in an M1 upgrade of Jordan Dawson. The Dawson and Brayshaw pick has sort of gone back and forward for me. Brayshaw priced at 105. I just think Dawson has the potential to be a 115, 120 type operator who's priced at, I think, about 105 as well, I think. Yeah, he's priced at 105. I'm banking on Dawson getting that pure midfield role at the Crows. I just think if the Crows want to have success this year, it's going to be off the back of Jordan Dawson, Isaac Rankin, Jake Saligo, really being in the midfield there. I know they've got a Matt Crouch, they've got Peatling, they've got other guys, Sid Draper to run. They've got so many midfielders. I just think you need a lock of 4 and just let them play. And if the Crows want success, it's going to be through Jordan Dawson's left foot. I think he just needs to be able to get up and down the ground, get the marks, get the tackles. Those numbers were really high in the practice game, and he also kicked a couple goals. So that 130 is his ceiling. I think he just needs to be a lock. I think with the Crows, they just need the ball in his hands. They've got enough key forwards. They've got Dan Curtin as a 4th tall to go with Thilthorpe, Fogg and Tex. Leave Dawson in the midfield. St Kilda, Essendon, North, Gold Coast, Geelong is a great start for Jordan Dawson, and I'm very happy to have him in my fantasy team. Connor Rozee, someone who's been in and out of my team all off-season, priced at 97, has the potential to be a 110 averaging midfielder with a great few games to start the season. Collingwood, very slow midfield. Richmond, Essendon, St Kilda could be layups for 120 average to start the season. Then he gets Hawthorn and Sydney, who are quite difficult, but then goes into North, the Dogs, the Crows, Cats, and the Dockers ahead of his early bye this season. Connor Rozee, we saw the ceiling. He's who I think could actually push back into defence a little bit more, not as a halfback, but as part of the transition game and to try and link up the play between the midfield and the attack, is get the ball into Rosee's hands, and he's got the aerobic capacity to do that. Had 7 marks at the weekend as part of his big 140 score in the community series against the Cones. So 2 big inclusions. Liberatore's gone from M2 to M4 to make room for Christian Petrarca. Somebody I probably wouldn't have started given the injury last year and the setback in the off-season, but looked $1 million, had 33 touches, 2 behinds, got everywhere up and down the ground against a good Fremantle midfield as well. Christian Petrarca, we know that if he plays in the midfield, is an absolute gun. He's Melbourne's number 1 asset, and if they've got Oliver and Petrarca firing, we know that they're going to be 2 pillars in their midfield. I'd be pretty concerned if he starts spending time forward, so we just need to try and keep an eye out on what his role looks like. But if it's anything like it was against Fremantle, I think priced at 90, Petrarca could easily be a 110, 115 averaging midfielder if Melbourne give him the role. I think they're in a position now where they need to give Christian Petrarca the keys to the midfield to go with it. Oliver, they take the pressure off each other, and then they can go from there. So I'm really excited to see what Petrarca can do. He's someone I love watching. Even if he goes forward, he kicks goals, so he's going to have options of scoring. Whilst we're talking about Libba quickly, I just love his role in this Bulldogs team, especially with no Bont and no Treloar in that midfield. I think they're going to lean on Liberatore and Sanders quite a lot. We saw him score high in the community game because he was the main guy. But if Libba's getting high possessions and high tackles, then he's got a huge ceiling, especially over the first 6 weeks, to be able to score quite well. The run of North, Collingwood, Carlton, Fremantle, Brisbane, St Kilda, Giants and Port isn't the worst way to start the season, and I'm a big fan of Libba. And even though he's 32 years old, this could be a 6-week play until the Bulldogs get all their mids back, and then you hopefully make 150k and then move him on to a bit of a fallen premium, maybe like a Jack Steele or someone in those realms, or an Andy Brayshaw don't start as super hot, then you could be able to make that difference up there. The rest of the midfield doesn't look too different. Angus Sheldrick does come into it. I've been looking at him all weekend, and I just think we have to take his score of 90-odd with a grain of salt because there was no Heaney and no Warner. But I think Sheldrick could have a very good, solid role in this team, especially whilst Goulden is out of the side. I think it moves James Jordan to the wing and then opens up a bit of a mid spot. And there's been some data going around that Sheldrick doesn't purely need CBAs in order to score well. We've seen him score well 2 years ago, coming in and pinch hitting in the midfield. I just think at 448, in a very good Sydney team that gets Hawthorn, who's tough in opening round, but then gets Brisbane, Fremantle, has the bye, but then North, Collingwood, Port, Gold Coast. I just think he's a gun. He's a very good, explosive player, and that's what we saw in the practice games. Hollands, I don't need to talk about. I think everyone's spoken about Ollie Hollands. Halfback roles real, scored 80-odd in a very low-scoring game against the Giants, and I'm very happy to have him potentially averaging 85 to 90 in my midfield, priced at 62. So no issues whatsoever with an Ollie Hollands. So that's where we're looking at in the midfield. Ashcroft, Langford are just the playing rooks that I like. Then we've got Tristan, Sherry, and Tom De Koning. I think this is the only area of my team that hasn't changed significantly recently. Very happy to run with Sherry and De Koning. Let me know in the comments what you're doing with Tristan Sherry, because I'm not sure whether I am locked and loaded. A lot of people are talking about his early run being extremely tough with Melbourne, the Crows, Sydney, Gold Coast, Carlton, Port. Not fantastic fixtures apparently up until the bye, but post-bye is when you might want to launch into Sherry. If it's not a Sherry, for me, it's probably almost a Nank, which sounds a bit weird, but goes Carlton, Port, St Kilda, but that could be a Rowan Marshall-less St Kilda, then gets Oscar McInerney, but then gets a decent enough run here other than Maxi Gawn. Or you're looking at a Tim English, but I just think I might just set and forget on Tristan Sherry. Let me know what you're doing in the comments, and we'll move on from the rucks. I'm pretty sure my forward line, just looking across, has not changed a single bit. So McRae, Sanders, Smith, Daniel, Garcia, Davidson, I am very set on that forward 6, and I'm very much set on Connor Stone being the F7 there to cover as well. So that is my side. We've got Hugh Boxall there in the utility. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Let me just zoom out a little bit so we can see the whole team in one frame. There we go. That is my full squad of 30 players. I'm pretty set on this. Obviously, opening round will dictate a little bit. If there's some rooks that pop off, then fantastic. Like if a Sheldrick goes off, awesome. If he struggles, then it'll probably be a Nathan O'Driscoll in that spot. But I'm pretty certain on most of that. Obviously, a lot of money in that midfield, a lot of money with Sheasel and Sherry. So we are cutting corners a little bit on some of those value players. We're missing out on a Pete Ling. We're missing out on a Dylan Shield. We're missing out on Adam Chera. They're all players that I'm prepared to leave on the table. So get in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. I'm going to be up and about this season over here on YouTube. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys very, very soon for another video.